Brick by brick, this mansion was built to keep the living out and the dead in. Within its walls, secrets breathe and shadows speak. Welcome to Haunted Mansion Stories. Every mansion has secrets. This one whispers them in the dark. Listen to the secrets only if you dare.
On a crisp autumn afternoon, a young woman named Clara found herself restless in her small town. The golden leaves danced in the breeze, and the sun cast a warm glow over everything. Clara had always been drawn to the thrill of the unknown, so when she spotted a narrow, overgrown path at the edge of her neighborhood, her heart raced with excitement. Just a quick look, she told herself, recalling the warnings of her grandmother about wandering off the beaten path. But the way the trees leaned toward her, their branches like beckoning fingers, made it impossible to resist. With a determined nod, Clara stepped onto the path. The air grew cooler, and the sunlight dimmed as she ventured deeper into the woods. The sounds of the town faded, replaced by the rustling of leaves and the distant call of a crow. A shiver ran down her spine, but she pressed on, her curiosity outweighing her apprehension. As she walked, Clara noticed something glinting among the fallen leaves. She knelt down and picked up a small, ornate locket. It was cold and heavy in her palm, and she felt an inexplicable connection to it. What secrets did it hold? She slipped it into her pocket and continued down the winding path. After a while, Clara stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood an ancient stone well, its edges covered in moss and vines. The well seemed to hum with an energy that both intrigued and frightened her. She approached cautiously, peering into the dark depths below. Suddenly, a voice echoed from the well, soft and melodic. "Help me, please." Clara's heart raced. Was she imagining things? She leaned closer, trying to discern the source of the voice. "Who's there?" she called, her voice trembling. "Help me." The voice repeated, more insistent this time. Clara felt a pull, as if the well was calling her to come closer. Just then, she heard footsteps behind her. Clara turned to see a tall figure emerging from the shadows. A man with wild hair and piercing blue eyes. He looked disheveled, as if he had been wandering the woods for days. "Don't go near the well," he shouted, panic in his voice. "It's a trap." Clara's heart raced as she took a step back. "What do you mean?" "The voice, it lures you in. It's not what it seems," he warned, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "I've seen what happens to those who listen." Clara's mind raced. Should she trust this stranger? The locket in her pocket felt warm against her skin, as if it were alive. "Who are you?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm Lucas," he replied, his eyes darting around. "I've been searching for a way out of these woods for too long. You shouldn't be here." Before Clara could respond, the voice from the well grew louder, more desperate. "Help me. I am trapped." Lucas grabbed Clara's arm, pulling her away from the well. "We need to leave. Now!" As they turned to run, the ground beneath them trembled, and the trees seemed to close in around them. Clara glanced back at the well, the voice now a haunting wail. She felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. They had entered a world of secrets, and the adventure was only just beginning. In a small coastal town, a musician named Oliver found solace in the sound of the waves crashing against the shore. He often wandered the beaches, searching for inspiration for his next song. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, he noticed a narrow path leading into the dense woods that bordered the beach. Intrigued, Oliver followed the path, the salty air giving way to the earthy scent of damp leaves. The deeper he went, the more he felt an unusual energy in the air, as if the woods were alive with whispers. As he walked, he heard a faint melody drifting through the trees. It was haunting and beautiful, tugging at his heartstrings. He followed the sound, his feet moving almost of their own accord. Suddenly, he stumbled upon a small clearing where a dilapidated gazebo stood, overgrown with vines. In the center of the gazebo sat an old gramophone, its horn cracked but still capable of producing the enchanting melody. Oliver approached, captivated by the music. He reached out to touch the gramophone, and as he did, the melody stopped abruptly. The silence was deafening. "Who dares disturb my song?" A voice echoed from the shadows. Oliver turned to see a woman emerging from the trees. She was ethereal, with long flowing hair and eyes that glimmered like stars. "I am Lila, the keeper of this melody," she said, her voice soft yet commanding. I didn't mean to intrude," Oliver stammered, his heart racing. The music was beautiful. Lila's expression softened. "It is a song of longing, a song of those lost to the woods. You must leave before it claims you too." Confused, Oliver glanced back at the gramophone. "What do you mean?" "The melody draws in those who seek inspiration, but it feeds on their souls," she warned, stepping closer. "You must resist its call." Just then, the gramophone began to play again, the haunting melody filling the air. Oliver felt a pull, an overwhelming desire to stay and listen. "No," Lila cried, reaching for him. "You must fight it." As the music swelled, Oliver felt himself being drawn toward the gramophone. He struggled against the invisible force, but the melody wrapped around him like a vine. "Cling to your heart," Lila shouted, her voice barely audible over the music. "Remember who you are." With a surge of determination, Oliver closed his eyes and focused on his own music, the songs of hope and love he had written. He began to hum a tune, a counter-melody that broke through the haunting notes. Slowly, the grip of the gramophone loosened and the music faded. Oliver opened his eyes to find Lila smiling at him, her form shimmering in the fading light. "You have a strong spirit," she said, her voice now gentle. "You have escaped the grasp of the woods. But remember, the song will always be there, waiting for those who seek it." With that, Lila vanished into the shadows, leaving Oliver alone in the clearing. He took a deep breath, the weight of the experience settling in. He had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, but he knew the woods held many more secrets yet to be uncovered.
I didn't believe in ghosts. Never had, never would. The stories about Hawthorne Manor were just that, stories. A bunch of nonsense people told to scare each other over beers. Which was exactly why I agreed when my friends dared me to spend a night here. Easy money, I'd said, even though no one was actually paying me. Just bragging rights. I brought nothing but a flashlight and a pack of smokes. I didn't need holy water or crucifixes or whatever crap ghost hunters used. It was just an old house, after all. Also, I thought. The second I stepped inside, something felt off. Like the air was thicker, pressing down on my chest. The floor groaned under my boots, the sound echoing too loud, like the house was listening. I played it cool, though. Even whistled a tune, though it cracked halfway out of my throat. "This is it? This is what everyone's scared of," I muttered, shining my flashlight down a hallway. Dust floated in the beam, but otherwise, the place was dead quiet. I made my way into what looked like a library. Shelves stretched to the ceiling, most of the books eaten by mold and time. I kicked at a broken chair and laughed. Haunted, my ass. That's when my flashlight flickered. Once. Twice. Then died. Shit. I smacked it against my palm, but it stayed dark. And the room wasn't silent anymore. I heard it, breathing. Not mine. Slow, ragged, coming from the far corner. Okay, funny, I called out, my voice not nearly as steady as I wanted it to be. Who's there? Greg? Jake? You assholes think you're funny, sneaking in behind me. No answer. Just that breathing. Then, soft sobbing. I froze. It was low, broken, like someone crying into their hands. My throat went dry. Who's there? Something moved in the shadows. A figure stepped forward, and my stomach dropped. It wasn't one of my friends. He was tall, dressed in an old suit that looked more like a shroud now. His eyes were sunken hollows, black and endless, his face locked in a sorrow so deep it made my skin crawl. "I am Thomas Hawthorne," the man whispered. His voice sounded like wind rattling through a coffin. I stumbled back until my shoulders hit a shelf. Jesus Christ. "We are trapped here," he went on, "bound by our past." My hands trembled. What do you want from me?" "Unravel the truth," Thomas said, stepping closer, his shadow stretching long across the rotting floor. "Only then can we be free." Before I could respond, a sharp knock echoed through the room. I spun toward the sound. The far wall was lined with bookcases, but one was slightly ajar, revealing the outline of a hidden door. 3 deliberate raps came again, knock, 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 from the other side. My blood turned to ice. And then, a whisper, closer than it should have been, slipping right into my ear. "Let me out."
The storm came without warning. Lightning flashed over the mountains, cutting through the black clouds that hung above the valley. Snow turned to rain, and rain to mist. Somewhere deep within that mist, the woods exhaled, a sound like a sigh, ancient and heavy. Far away, 3 souls stirred. Clara, trapped between waking and dream, found herself standing once more at the edge of the clearing where the stone well waited. The locket around her neck pulsed faintly, as if it were alive. Oliver, sitting by the fire in his seaside cottage, jolted upright when he heard his own gramophone begin to spin, though he hadn't touched it in months. The haunting melody spilled out again, slower this time, mournful, and Ethan, buried beneath the snow of the forgotten village, opened his eyes to darkness. A heartbeat echoed somewhere below him, not his own. The woods were calling them back. When the 3 awoke, they were no longer in their own worlds. The air was thick with fog, and the earth beneath them pulsed like living flesh. They stood together in a clearing ringed by skeletal trees whose roots coiled and twisted like serpents. "Where are we?" Oliver asked, his voice breaking the silence. "The hollow," Ethan said, his breath fogging the air. "But deeper, beneath it." Clara touched the locket. "It brought us here." Before them rose a structure that didn't belong to any time. Part cathedral, part tree, part ruin. Its walls breathed, and the whispering voices they'd each heard in their own stories now converged into one chorus. "Help me. Remember. Release us." They stepped inside. The interior was vast and dimly lit by veins of amber light that pulsed through the walls. At the center stood an altar made of blackened wood. Upon it, tangled in vines, rested a root, massive and beating like a heart. Clara took a trembling step forward. This is where it began. A voice, soft, melodic, achingly familiar, filled the space. Long before your towns, before your songs, there was the voice beneath the soil. It gave us beauty, it gave us music, but it asked for devotion, and we listened. The walls rippled. Figures emerged, faint outlines of villagers, musicians, wanderers, all those who had vanished into the woods across the ages. Their faces were serene, their eyes hollow. Ethan clenched his fists. "You fed on them." "I sang to them," the voice replied, and they answered. The gramophone appeared beside the altar, its horn now made of bone and bark. It began to spin, playing the first notes of the haunting melody. Oliver dropped to his knees, tears streaking his face. "It's her song, Lila's song." The voice shifted, growing clearer. "She was my vessel, my echo in your world." She longed to be heard. Clara felt the locket grow hot in her hand. When she opened it, she saw a single black seed inside, pulsing in rhythm with the melody. Ethan looked at her. "If the song began with the seed, then ending it means burying it," Clara finished. The roots writhed in protest, their whispers rising into a roar. The air grew thick with the scent of earth and rot. Oliver pressed his hand to the gramophone. "I started this once. I can end it." He began to hum again. The counter melody he'd used before, soft, trembling but true. Clara placed the seed at the heart of the altar. Ethan struck it with his torch. Fire flared, white and searing, consuming the vines. The voice screamed, its tone both sorrowful and furious. The ground shook. The trees bent backward, their whispers turning to cries. For a moment, the woods seemed to collapse in on themselves, and the air split with light. Then silence. When the smoke cleared, the three of them stood in an open field. The trees were gone. The well was nothing but a ring of stones. Clara exhaled. "It's over." Oliver looked toward the horizon. "Or it's sleeping." Ethan said nothing. In his pocket, he felt something small and cold. He pulled it out, the locket. The seed was gone, but the metal was still warm. From somewhere far off, a faint hum began again. The whisper of a song carried on the wind. "Help me." The three exchanged a look. The woods might have burned, but the roots ran deep. The night was still, too still. The field where the whispering woods once stood had gone silent, stripped of life and shadow. Yet, beneath the charred soil, something continued to breathe, slow and patient. Weeks had passed since Clara, Oliver, and Ethan had burned the altar. The world above had gone on. Snow melted, birds returned, and the wind carried no song. But peace, true peace, was an illusion. Clara woke often in the night to the sound of faint humming. Oliver found that every instrument he touched played the same note, no matter the tune. And Ethan, who had tried to leave the valley, found that no matter which road he took, it always brought him back. They had stopped a curse, but not the memory of it. One night, Clara dreamed, though it felt too real to be a dream. She stood once again in the clearing, moonlight spilling over the blackened earth. From the ashes, pale tendrils began to rise, roots reforming themselves, twisting upward. A woman's silhouette appeared among them, her voice soft as a sigh. "You can burn the branches, but you cannot silence the soil." Clara took a step back. "Who are you?" The figure smiled, mournful, knowing. "I'm the first song, the one they buried." The air shimmered. Visions flooded her mind, a time long before villages, before names. A small community gathered in a valley where the earth itself sang. They listened to the soil's hum, learned to echo it, and their crops flourished. But when drought came, they offered their dead to feed the voice beneath. And the voice grew hungry. Its melody turned hollow, a song that demanded more. Generation by generation, it whispered to those who could still hear it, through wells, through roots, through dreams, until all that remained were fragments, a cursed locket, a song on a gramophone, a whisper in the woods. The voice's form shifted again, its tone pleading. You freed them from me, but now I am alone. Clara's heart twisted. You took lives. You consumed them. They sang willingly. I only gave them what they asked for, meaning. The roots trembled. You will sing too, Clara. Everyone does, in the end. Clara woke screaming. Miles away, Oliver's gramophone began to spin on its own again. But this time it played a new tune, softer, fragile, beautiful. It wasn't the haunting melody of before. It was hers, Clara's lullaby, the one she hummed when she couldn't sleep. He froze, recognizing her voice. Help me. Ethan burst into the cottage moments later, his eyes wide with dread. The woods are growing back. They ran to the edge of the valley. Moonlight revealed tiny green shoots pushing through the soil, pulsing faintly with golden light. The song's in the ground, Ethan whispered. It's becoming the earth. Oliver clenched his fists. Then the earth will always remember. Clara stepped out of the shadows then, her eyes distant, her voice calm. It doesn't want to be stopped anymore. It just wants to be heard. Her locket glowed faintly, the seed inside it alive again. Ethan took a step toward her. Clara. She smiled sadly. Maybe it was never evil. Maybe it's just lonely. The wind rose, carrying with it a harmony of countless voices. The field trembled. The roots split open, and light poured out, blinding and beautiful. Oliver covered his ears, shouting her name. But Clara only raised her arms as the ground swallowed her whole, her voice merging with the song. I am the soil. I am the memory. I am the whisper you cannot forget. And then silence. When dawn broke, the valley was lush again, wildflowers swaying where ashes had been. The air smelled of rain and old earth. Oliver and Ethan stood side by side, staring at the horizon. She's gone, Ethan said quietly. No, Oliver whispered. She's everywhere. A faint melody drifted on the breeze, Clara's song, haunting, endless, alive. The camera would pull back now, if this were a film. The woods would stretch far beyond the valley, roots crawling beneath towns, cities, oceans. The melody spreading like memory itself. Because the voice beneath the soil had found a new vessel, and the world was listening. The valley where the whispering woods once stood became a quiet meadow. Just another stretch of forgotten countryside where wildflowers grew and fog rolled in thick on autumn mornings. People drove by it without slowing down, unaware of the history buried beneath their tires. But sometimes, when the air was still, travelers would swear they heard music, faint, like a lullaby carried by the wind. Locals called it the song that never sleeps. In a small university by the coast, a folklore professor named Dr. Mia Klein sifted through dusty archives. She specialized in lost legends, oral histories of haunted towns, ghost melodies, and cursed woods. One folder, however, stood out. It was unmarked. Inside, she found 3 old photographs. The first, a young woman standing before a moss-covered well. The second, a musician beside a broken gramophone. The third, a snowbound village, half sunken into the earth. At the bottom of the folder was a letter, its paper yellowed with age. To whoever finds this, the woods remember us. The song is not gone, only quiet. If you ever hear it, don't listen too closely. Some things don't want to be understood. Aga, Mia frowned. Oh, that H, she murmured. Only for heart. The name matched a forgotten folk musician from the 1940s, a man who vanished after writing a song called The Hollow. Intrigued, she dug deeper. The more she searched, the more connections appeared. Whispers of a woman named Clara who vanished in Eldridge Hollow, of a man named Ethan seen wandering an abandoned village, and of a melody said to awaken under moonlight. The stories span generations, different names, same details. Wells, woods, whispers. It shouldn't have been possible. One evening, Mia stayed late in her office. Rain tapped at the windows. She decided to play an old vinyl she had found tucked with a letter. No label, just faint words carved into the rim. To the one who listens. She placed the needle down. The room filled with a familiar sound, gentle, mournful, achingly human. A voice hummed through the static, clear and soft. It was Clara's lullaby. Mia's heart pounded. She pressed record on her phone, capturing every note. But as the song went on, her lights flickered and a whisper slithered beneath the melody. "Help me." Her breath hitched. The gramophone spun faster. The air in the room thickened, humming with invisible life. Mia reached out to stop it, but then she froze, eyes widening. Reflected in the office window behind her, the dark outline of a woman watched silently. Long hair, eyes like deep water, and a faint smile. The record clicked off. The reflection was gone. But from somewhere deep in the soil below the building, the faintest hum continued, steady and patient, as if waiting for the next listener to find it. And so, the story became a whisper once more, passed between travelers, scholars, and children who dare to wander too far. They say if you follow the melody long enough, it leads you to the place where time folds and roots sing, where the dead are never gone, where the soil remembers every voice it has ever swallowed. And on quiet nights, when the wind carries the scent of damp earth and old rain, you can still hear her singing, soft, endless, the voice beneath the soil.
Leave now, but beware. The mansion remembers those who enter, and it will call you back. You've walked the halls, heard the voices, and felt the chill. The story ends for now, but don't forget to like and subscribe because the mansion waits. Always.